Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. French opposition lawmakers brought the government down on Wednesday through a no-confidence motion which passed with a majority of 331. This throws the European Union's second biggest economic power deeper into a political crisis that threatens its capacity to legislate and rein in a massive budget deficit. France's political turmoil will further weaken a European Union already reeling from the implosion of Germany's coalition government, and weeks before US President-elect Donald Trump returns to the White House. What does this mean for France and the EU, including Poland, of course? To explore this, we're joined by Romain Le Quiniou, Managing Director, Euro Creative. Monsieur Le Quiniou, welcome to TVP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure as always. So, tell us, what brought this defeat for Michel Barnier about?
Yes, this is a topic that has been discussed for a few weeks now. But please, let me just for a few seconds take off my cap of analyst and tell you that as a French citizen, I feel particularly angered by what happened. This is an irresponsible move from the oppositions. France is in financial disarray at the moment. There is war in Europe. And there is also a lack of unity in Europe, given the challenges that we are collectively facing more generally. So I think that this is completely irresponsible from our political parties. Now France is in total blockade. We should not forget that also this whole situation has been brought by a very irresponsible decision a few months ago, which was the dissolution of the National Assembly, and now we are in a very difficult situation. How did we get there? It's simple. Mr. Barnier, the Prime Minister, was there for a few months and didn't make it for the budget. For a simple reason, both the left, the extreme left in particular, leading this alliance, and the extreme right allied together and wanted to make the government fall. The left wants to have a chaos in France, chaos in the National Assembly, especially because they would like to see President Macron resigning, and the extreme right, we have to say, that also wants a chaos for sure, wants Macron to leave, but especially Marine Le Pen is facing judicial problems at the moment and is willing to just make another story more important than her judicial problem, which can be very costly politically for her in the near future.
Understood. I want to talk about Marine Le Pen in just a second, but I'd like to explore a little bit more about the trigger. You mentioned the budget. What specifically about the budget brought these opposing parties, politically opposing parties, together?
Yes, so the government of Mr. Barnier didn't fall on the whole budget issue. It fell on one specific point of the budget, which was the law on the financing of the social security. And basically, it didn't have a majority to pass the vote because despite some arrangements that he was willing to offer to the oppositions and especially to the National Rally, he was not able to secure a majority. So there is this specific action in France, in the constitution, that has been used many times, that is sometimes controversial, but it is passing a text without a vote. And then when you do that, you assume the possibility of being voted on a motion of non-confidence. And this is what happened, and the two parties decided to vote against the government to make it fall. So this is something that is very complicated for France because despite, in addition of the fall of the government, what is very worrying for France is that we will not be able, most likely, to have a budget for the 2025 year. And this is particularly problematic in a time where France is in a financial situation which is very problematic, which has been, raised some alarms in Brussels. So at the moment, there is a lot of questions on two things. First, who to replace and when to replace the government. It seems that President Macron is willing to move very fast, to have a new prime minister very fast. And the second question is how to have a budget. And the most likely scenario, we have many scenarios, and frankly speaking, the Constitution didn't really say clearly what are options, but the most likely scenario would be the vote of a special law for a few weeks, for a few months, regarding the copy-paste of the 2024 budget to have a regular functioning of France, its economy, its bureaucracy for the...
But who would implement that budget? Would there be a caretaker government?
Well, we don't know yet. It can be a caretaker government, a new government, basically, that is nominated through the Prime Minister by President Macron. It can be also, in the case of a decision that would take longer, it could be a caretaker government which is the government of Mr. Barnier, that will just take regular affairs for a few weeks, a few months, like the precedent one from Mr. Attal did this summer. So at the moment it's very undecided.
Okay, undecided, don't know how long it's going to take. Now, this is a problem for the European Union and for Europe in general, is it not? How do you anticipate the impact on the EU and France's role within the EU going forward as a result of this indecision?
Absolutely, this is a problem for the EU, and this is why I'm so angry at our politicians, our elected representatives, because they need to understand that a government that is not functioning in France is also a problem for the whole European Union. It's a problem for Ukraine. It's a problem for our partners, our allies, on two specific grounds. The first one is that France is the most important military security power in the European Union and has some responsibility as such. Having a crisis, a political instability, a lack of funding is very problematic for Europe, especially that we know that in the next few weeks, next few months, with the return of Donald Trump, things might move fast or not fast in Ukraine, but things will move. And France is not in the position to have a strong voice, is not in a position to be very vocal on this, and this will weaken Europe's position in this situation. The second problem is that France has, as you mentioned, is the second economy, largest economy in the European Union, and France has a catastrophic situation when it comes to its public debt and its public finances. And so the fact that we don't have a budget will impact the French economy, which will impact, of course, the European economy. And the European economy is not doing so well at the moment. And there are worries that the whole situation in France, of course, will have impact. So once again, completely irresponsible.
Irresponsible. You currently have a situation then where the top two economies in the European Union are having political problems. A lot of uncertainty in both of them, which risks, of course, undermining EU policy going forward, especially with regards to Ukraine. Now, President Macron going along to sign the Mercosur agreement. Do you think this is the right time for him to do this?
I think that Mercosur now is something that is out of the topic. I mean, of course, we know the opposition of France. We know the apprehensions of the French citizens when it comes to Mercosur. What is sure is that it's a difficult time for France to talk about Mercosur. We know that the outgoing government was opposing the signature of France on the Mercosur. Now, if we don't have a government, if we have a caretaker government, I believe that it's in no way its decision. They don't have the sufficient legitimacy to decide or not if France has to sign the Mercosur. So this is a very complicated situation at the moment, and we will see how the situation can drag in. We know that France has been trying to influence some partners when it comes to at least a delay for Mercosur. So this is a question that should be fixed in Brussels. But once again, when you have a political crisis in France, it means that France is much weaker in Brussels. Brussels, and probably partners will not be so willing to listen to what France has to say and what that France would like to defend its national interests. And I'm not even taking position on Mercosur, should we have it or not. But this is a problem also for the influence.
President Macron has attacked the impact on farmers of the Mercosur agreement and on the environment. Does that mean that basically when Ursula von der Leyen goes to Montevideo to sign the agreement, France doesn't have a seat at the table on this decision?
Well, we have always a seat on the table, but the problem is that
they're not influencing it.
The influence is it's impacted, that's for sure. But we saw it already over the summer that at the last moment, Madame von der Leyen decided to basically scalp the French nominee commissioner Thierry Breton, and then France had to make a decision and change him. So we can see that France doesn't really have the impact it had over the past few years, or at least President Macron doesn't have today the same impact that he used to have during his first mandate. So of course, political troubles at home means that you are first very focused on domestic affairs,
right,
and second that there is a lack of credibility.
Monsieur Le Quiniou, unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there, but thank you very much indeed for sharing your expertise with our audience.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, sir. Bye-bye.
You too.
And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Goodbye for now.